what's up, everybody? Isaac here, Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to be with you on another podcast episode. Today, I bring a special guest. I really like this one, Joe Ebinger. I think you're going to enjoy this. We talk about his entire journey into earning his PE, and it's fascinating because he didn't take the PE until after working for 20 years. You can imagine how hard that was. On top of it, he started as a mechanical engineer and worked his way into working into the civil world doing structural engineering. So you can imagine how hard that was. This is a very heartfelt interview, very purpose-driven. If you have any desire or working to become a professional engineer in the civil world, you're going to find some inspiration here and great tips and tricks. So thanks for liking this stuff. Thanks for subscribing to us. Thanks for leaving comments. If you have a civil friend out there, give this a share. We do appreciate that. That goes a long way. And if you need additional resources, definitely check us out at civilengineeringacademy.com. We know specs changed for the PE exam on April 1st of 2024. We've been working hard to make those updates and have made quite a few of them, but we're continuing to work on our courses and we'll get there as well. But check out all of our resources at civilengineeringacademy.com. And without further ado, let's get to my interview with Joe. You're going to love this one. See you in a minute. All right, Joe, we are live. We're rocking and rolling. Thanks for joining me on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. Appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. You've got a great story behind you, and as a recent test taker, you recently passed the PE exam, so we'll dive into that. But I always start these episodes out just kind of getting your own background. How'd you find yourself into engineering?
Yeah.
And specifically your story, like going from mechanical to more civil.
Yeah. So I've always been interested in just learning about stuff and knowing about, things in the world and how things work. And, going through school and stuff like that. I enjoyed science, was always my favorite because I just like learning how things worked. And, so between that and having, being pretty strong at maths, what do you want to do? It's like, well, there's all kinds of things I could do. And so I decided, I wanted to go for, engineering. And I actually was originally looking for civil engineering university. But part of what I did is music is also a big part of my background. And I was looking for a place where I can kind of pursue my musical background and engineering background. And I ended up finding a university called Mercer University in Georgia, Macon, Georgia, ABET accredited. They had a new engineering program, but I was able to get partial music scholarship, partial engineering scholarship, and they didn't have civil, but they had mechanical. So I was like, sure, all that, seems cool and stuff to me. So that's how I got into that. And then, as I was going after my junior year and stuff, it started taking over as much of my time to be able to be successful with engineering. So I had to push back on some of the music stuff, but
it does that.
Yeah. But it's all part of it, just really the curiosity and learning how things work. And just, that's, what inspired me.
Do you play an instrument, multiple instruments, sing?
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So, was in the marching band in high school and stuff. And I played saxophone, all the saxophones. But I was also, before that, in the orchestra and played oboe, which is kind of a tougher instrument to play. So pretty good at it. And I was in like the youth symphony when I lived in Tampa. And so again, there's all these roads I could go on. Like I could have been a musician, or I could have been this. Part of me wanted to go into audio engineering before I was into, mechanical, but it was such a small field. Like I've always loved acoustics and sound. You could see behind me, like you got a big, up there, all this stuff. I'd build my own speakers and design my own stuff. But I was like, I'll go into mechanical because it's, a little bit more of a broader range and stuff. So I'll be the responsible decision, but that's always been a part of my passion and things.
Well, it requires both sides of your brain, I'm told.
Yeah.
I'm similar. I can play music, but I, did the engineering stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, there's more aspects to who we are, it's like, this is our career, but it's not the only piece of who we are. So it's like having that balance and stuff. And part of when I was going through the university and taking all my electrical classes, I'd relate it back to, acoustical or like electronics and audio. So it's like, okay, building an amplifier and doing this in acoustics and the physics of it. So that's what inspired me to get through those things, try to relate whatever to something you enjoy. So.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit. How did you transition? How did you find yourself doing civil engineering work? Because describe what you do now for.
Yeah. So I actually work as a truss engineer. I've been in the industry for 21 years. And what happened is when I graduated school, I graduated in December of 2001 and moved back to Florida, and was trying to find a job because I was actually engaged to get married. And he was looking for different positions, and I found, this it's more of a civil structural opportunity. And, I started in with a company, and, when you're learning engineering, it's like you learn a lot of things and you have a broad base, but it's like you pretty much learn how to learn, and
Yep.
with what I learned in mechanics and statics and stuff, then that's part of what I enjoyed a lot about with mechanical. So I was like, well, let me move into this. And you learn that when you get a position or a profession, you become a specialist in that field. So like you learn and grow into what you need to become an expert in that field. And that's what I did. And so even though I had a mechanical background, we actually have a lot of people who come in with, civil background, mechanical background, and different things like that can be successful if you're open to growing into that. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So now you're doing structural engineering.
I'm doing stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I want to back up a little bit. So when you were in school, did you have to pass your FE, and did you do that in mechanical or?
Yeah. So, I was going back. So I graduated, and we didn't have to take or pass the FE during graduation. And at the end and stuff too, I graduated and I didn't take it. So what happened was I worked, and after working, as an engineer for 4 years, I took the FE. I was like, okay, it's that time, do the thing, take the FE, take the weekend. But it takes a lot, especially the farther you get away from going to school to bring it. So I got myself back into that, going through all the, I want to do this yet. And I passed, I took the FE and passed the FE exam. And I was like, oh, need a break. And then started to figure out, what I wanted to do. And then it kind of phased off a bit, where I didn't have the same motivation to keep going again with life and being married and other stuff like that. And, and I was becoming a professional in my field and an expert in my field. And it didn't really require the PE for me to excel. And there's other responsibilities that I had and things that you could do, but I was like, I've never had, I didn't have the same inspiration to take it and learn it, because I was like, oh, for myself, it's good. But there's so many other things, like even outside of work, that to spend my time and to spend that commitment to do it, I knew what it would take. And I didn't really have that, at the time. And then, fast forward, it was 20 years, whatever, a year ago. And, there was some restructuring in my company, and I was actually promoted to an engineering manager. And when that happened, there was no stipulations about getting my PE or other stuff. And it's kind of not typical, because usually to get in those positions, you had to have a certain, like PE background and stuff. But I guess I was good enough at what I did. I thought I'd be valuable in that position, where they was like, I want you to be here. So I got an engineering team. And because of that, and there's no stipulations for me to have to get my PE. But when I was in that position, I was like, okay, this is what, it's my time to go and to do what I need to do so I can help
Team time.
Yeah, support the other, PEs around me and the other managers. So, and that's what my inspiration was. And that's why, because it's always been there, but it wasn't, me like, I have to get the next thing. It's like, okay, but now that I have a chance to help others around me and make it better for my work and everyone, that's what inspired me to work on getting my PE.
Wow, that's fantastic. And really an inspiration when you're waited so long to get it. That's hard. It gets hard.
Yeah. And so I felt like I was crazy as I was studying. It's like, what am I doing? It's a lot to get back on that.
Well, before I dive into PE questions, was the FE, did you take the FE in civil or FE in mechanical?
FE in mechanical, because that's good. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story. So yeah, so mechanical with all like the fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, materials, all that stuff like that, because that's where my knowledge was. That's where my bachelor, where I had it. So I took that, and then, but when I was deciding to go for my PE, I decided it would be most useful and beneficial to people around me, the company, everything, to get it in civil, versus mechanical, And so I decided to teach myself civil engineering, which is a big thing. And I'll be honest with you. So with the mechanical background, the strong background in that, and then what I'd done in the industry, I'd say I had, maybe 20% of what I needed to pass the civil engineering exam.
Sure.
And because it's just, there's so many other things, like in mechanical, we never have classes, not one class in concrete, not one class in steel, not one class. I didn't even know what, geotech was, all the stuff, water resources, like transportation, like none of it. It just wasn't there. And so, but I'm like, okay. And the thing that's, I think, different with me than with other people too is I became an engineering professional before I became a professional engineer. And what that means is I became a working, professional of how to handle things, how to take situations, how to manage different, time and situations and stuff like that. And so when I was approached to study to get my professional engineering license, I actually never studied to pass the exam. And what I did is I studied to become a professional civil engineer. And that was my mindset the whole time. Like, this isn't something I have to do. This is something I want to do. And this is a fundamental change. And this is what I want to share with people is that, when you're learning, it's about the information. You go to school, it's like this, and the next class, the next thing, it's just about information. But this was the first time I could say, like, I really enjoyed the process of learning and becoming a professional civil engineer, because I was doing it, and, from a different perspective, with some experience and some perspective on life. And this is what helped me get through it, because I've seen so many people go through it. It's such a hard time. And it's like, what's your motivation, inspiration? Just trying to pass a test, get the answers and stuff. And that's, part of it. But it's, for me, that was never, it's like, I want to become a professional civil engineer. And if I could do that, then I'll be able to pass whatever test comes in front of me or any questions that come, because, that's what I want to be. And so, yeah.
That is a great perspective on earning not only your PE, but just in general, becoming a professional engineer. And
yeah.
I love what you said. You became, what did you say? You became a professional engineer?
I was an engineering professional.
Oh yeah.
Before I became a professional engineer. And again, and that's something that I'm to too, is help other, because I'm also being in, engineering manager with my company and hiring new people and helping.
Oh yeah.
Part of that is helping develop the training program for new engineers that come in and help them, because with what we do, it's a very, specialized information and stuff. And so helping them get on board and learning certain things, it's about a 3 to 6 month process. So I helped develop that program. And it just helps give me perspective on, what works and the right way to look at it, and shifting the priorities. Because another thing that I help, new people come in is when when you're in university and taking classes and passing stuff, like, oh man, if you're to get a 95%, that's awesome. Like on an exam or something like that, it's amazing. It's super high five and stuff like that. But once you become an engineering professional, like a 95% isn't good enough. It's like 98% is good enough. 99%, like you have to be 100%. Like that's our job, is to be the people who know all the details and can solve those answers and know what's going on. And, sometimes things get through, and that's okay. You have to be able to see that. That's another important thing, is to be able to see when, you make mistakes or something isn't right, and to be comfortable enough with yourself to say, like, I know this, I don't know this. And so that gives you the opportunity to learn and know to what you need. I mean, that's how it is as a professional. And that's how it was for me studying and learning, which was tough, because I had to say, I came in like a fool, like, and it's interesting, because when I started, I felt like who is this guy thinking he can come in and just, pass and become a professional civil engineer with not wanting civil engineering class and stuff. And it was hard, but I had to be that honest with myself, saying, oh, okay, I'm starting at 0 or at, 20%. And then anytime something came in front of me, it wasn't learning it to pass and answer the problem. It was to understand what it was so that I could solve the problem.
Makes sense. Wow, that's fascinating. Well, let's, I guess, dive into that a little bit. So
Sure.
You wanted to take it. How did you, we talked about how you discovered Civil Engineering Academy, but how did that go about?
Yeah. So, okay. So it's, it started once I made that commitment to myself, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I started, going through the process to see what it needs. I went to the NESIS site and printed out the different, specs on what was going to be, tested. And I decided to go for civil structural. And so I printed that out, and it gave me a baseline of all the different, topics and stuff that we're going to be learning. And so I was like, man, what can I do? I think I started with Google, Google search of trying to find resources and trying to find things. And I can't remember if I did that first or started looking at YouTube videos and stuff first, just trying to find different things. And so I started gathering the information I needed and started getting like the steel manual, and I got the ASCI 318 I got here on the ground for cock, all those old references. But then I was trying to figure out, how can I do this? Because for me, like it's a big deal, and I might be, pretty smart guy, something being able to pick up things, but to start from scratch. So I was looking at different places and I found Civil Engineering Academy. And what led me to you was that, I ended up watching some of the free videos and stuff you had on YouTube, and it just made sense in the way you presented the information, and also with your enthusiasm and your personality for presenting the information. Like, it just really resonated and struck with me, where I was like, yeah, this looks great. And I looked into the academy and seeing what you had to offer. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I just signed up for 6 months and, started going on the way. And it's just really, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without the resources that you have, because with the way Civil Engineering Academy has is you have, almost like a resource video for each of the topics, right? And you go through. So, and that's what I needed, because some of the stuff I was literally learning starting from the instructional information they had and all the resources that you had. So I was starting from scratch, especially on topics and certain things. So what's funny is, I talked about having to be completely open with yourself on what you know, what you don't know. And so some of the stuff, you had certain topics and there were words, especially in geotech or other things, where you'd say something and I'm sure it's just common knowledge for, now of course I have expertise in it, but of what it was. And I'm like, and I pause, say you were, you get good explanations, but if you're going into a problem or something, I have to pause, or even if you're explaining it, and I'd stop and be like, I don't really know what that word means. I don't know what this. So then I'd stop, I'd go and Google search and try to find out what that topic means and what it really means, so I could understand, and then move and then go forward, and then I'd pause and come again. So like I didn't really stop, and I'd make sure if there was, not even, okay, I kind of know what that is. I'm good. Like, not that mentality. It's like, it's that 100%, engineering professional mentality where, okay, I don't really know what that is. So stop, look at it, and then, okay, I got it. Go back and keep going. Same thing with problems. Sometimes you get to the problems and there'd be, 3 minute problem going through all this, and yeah, it makes sense. And I get to a point and I know everything except this one point. Like, where'd you get that equation from? Why did you do this? Why are these numbers like this? And I'd go back, and it would take me 30 minutes to understand that one part. And I'd go bring up all this stuff and have multiple windows open it up on Google and understand the conceptual, where I'd be able to almost like derive the equations myself. I needed to understand, not just memorize it. That's the whole thing. And that gave me the solid foundation to be able to handle the problems as they came up, So that was part of my process during studying and learning.
Great. How did you go about taking, practice exams? A lot of people, look at those differently. How did you go about that?
Yeah. Excuse me. So I went, the first thing I went through, and I made sure I went through the list that NESIS has of the test, and made sure I went from top to bottom, every topic, every subject, and went all the way down. And that took a long time, and then once I went through that, I had to, and as this process was going, again, I had to ramp up myself for even being able to do this. So if I could take a moment to just say that, because so starting off again, working full time and being initially not hating your mindset in that place, like it took me a good month and a half till I was in a place to be able to really imbibe and start learning this stuff, which you don't realize if you're always in it or if you're outside. And
all right.
It took me a week to almost ramp up. I kind of put it towards exercising or working out. It's like I started back from scratch. Like, I had to build up my endurance, build up my strength to be able to do this. So it took me time to be able to get that up. So I went through everything. And then during my learning, I got to the point where, okay, I got to the end, and that was however many months later, 6-7 months it took me to get through everything. And then I got to go back at the beginning. Now it's like I have to go back to the topic that I learned before and learn it again, and then I had to grow to become familiar with being able to jump back and forth around the different topics. So before I even started taking the exam, again, the main thing is learning the material, doing and practice problems on the material, till you're kind of comfortable with everything, then moving on to the next subject and doing that. So doing all that, kind of going through all the way down the list, being good with that, now starting back again and going on a topic that I hadn't looked at in a couple of months because, it took me so much to get to that, refreshing yourself on that. And then being able to, then I started training myself this is all before going to an official exam. So now I was like, okay, I've got it, but now I have to kind of bend my mind and learn to be able to jump from one topic to a completely different topic, and being solid and being able to kind of like shift gears that much. So that took me a while to do. It took me a couple months to be able to start. Okay. And so I started, I had all the topics and I just pick a random start doing stuff and learning to being able to shift gears so fast. And once I was good with that, then I took, I took a practice exam. So the first one that I took was the one that you had through the Civil Engineering Academy, which is awesome, which was, it's a simulated exam, 8-hour exam. You have the same resources up on the side page like you did during the actual exam. So, and that's another thing too, is as I was studying, to make sure you always use that, the NESYS provided material on the breadth section. And then on the depth section, of course, you use the different references and stuff that you have, using that the whole time during studying. So so the Civil Engineering Academy was the first one that I took. And what I did was I did that. So this was that point where it was, I think, a month and a half before I was scheduled. Was it a month and a half? Did I take 2 tests before? I took 2. I ended up taking that one and then the NESYS one. But I think I took this one at first just to see where I was at. I think, and sure. I took it and it gave me, it's like, okay, I did good on this and this, and it really showed me where I needed. And for me, at the end, I needed more work in the depth section. So like what you had offered, like, had given me, like, I ended up even taking the first practice exam that you had. I passed the breadth section. But still, even on some of those, I wanted to be 100%. It's not about getting it. It's like, do I feel like I got that? I feel like I got lucky on some questions and doing this and that stuff. So, but using that exam was great because it gave me a platform, and I took it in an honest way where I set aside a day, like I took time off. I took a day off work and set up as I was taking the exam with that kind of seriousness. And so I went through the same thing, the first half, and I was at my home, took the break, took the second half, and I was blown out by the end of the day. But that really helped me to see where I was at, and you have to look at those results in an honest way. And even the questions that you might have gotten just through being in multiple choice format, you have to look at it honestly and say, like, did I get it because I got it, or did I get it because I knew it? And so that was a great resource. And then, I went through it again, and I went through every single question, by hand afterwards, and you have the solutions and things too, which really help. So I went through all that again, and then I started studying some more. And then I took the NESYS practice exam, first, went through that, and took that, and, went through the same thing again, and, just kind of refine what I needed to know, and then just, keep pushing on things. And what really pushed me is because when I was doing this, I didn't have a time frame on when I was going to take the exam, but then it kind of popped up when they were changing the format on April 1st, Civil Engineers April Fools. I'm like, man, I've been studying for it in this one way. So I was like, okay, I felt like I wasn't ready for the exam, but I was like, I got to prepare. And that's what gave me the last push to the last, because since that, we got that email or found out about it, like from that, I was like, I really got to kick it up and do it. And that's what, because that gave me the motivation, because I've done this stuff, there's so much more to it than just the affirmations. Like, it was hard for me to get started because I, work a full day, and I'd be giving myself 100% at work, and I'd be blown out mentally by the time it was at the end of the day. So how can I give myself this? It's something I want to do. So again, learning to know that it takes time to set up those patterns within yourself to be able to give yourself fully towards it. And with me, I'm like, I have to do something every day to help. I want to be exposed to it. I want to do this. So I'm like, okay. So I try to have time, set aside. And this day I might take, 30 minutes and just, going through it and having all new topics and information. My mind could be mush, right? So I'd come in and be like, I'm done. You feel like you're saturated, like you're overflowing the cup. It's like, it's not really sticking. So you're done. And I'd stop and I'd come back. And so I'd build up my endurance over time. I'd build up being able to handle that.
How much time did you put into it? Like, if you scheduled out a week, was it a couple hours each day? Did you follow kind of our recommendations? We start off with this, I want to do it like this, I'm going to do it and put 2 hours a day, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah.
And at first it's like this, but this is what I'm being open. It's really, life happens and things happen in a different way, whether it's, you miss a day or have a tough time, or it's a holiday or things, you don't feel like you're sick. It's just like, there's so many things to pull you away. And that's why finding the inspiration to keep pushing through those things, and to knowing like, okay, like it didn't work out, or there's times where there'd be a couple of days that I wouldn't do anything. You kind of feel bad. So it's like, why are you doing this in the first place? And it's like, I'm doing this to become professional civil engineer. Like, all this stuff is happening, and especially with having tough days at work and things. So it's like, it's a lot to get yourself on that to be successful. And you have to be open and saying like, no, I got this. I'm good. It's like, you have to say like, no, I'm really doing this. I'm stumbling. Like I stumbled a lot. Like I have to change how I do things. So with me, I would try to do it every day after work. I didn't have a certain time frame set. What I found is that in chunks doing that, it would be like 30 minutes to an hour. I try to do that. And because I'd find, and I try to go through one of the training modules and stuff that you have. It's like, okay, this is cool. I'll do a whole module because the module might be 25 minutes. Or might be practice question, It usually take me more than one day to do it because I'd have to stop. There might be 25 minutes, but it would take me, an hour and a half because of these things and making sure I understand the topic and researching.
Sure.
Problems. So I kind of let it grow organically. The main thing for me was having some kind of consistency. So sometimes I do it in 30 minutes. Sometimes I get to an hour and I'd be doing questions. And I'm like, my mind is done. I got to put my pencil down. And, cause I know other people who study for the exam. Like we had someone that I worked with who's actually studying. His degree was in mechanical and he actually went for the mechanical PE. And he did it different. He was a younger guy, been a couple of years out of school, and he did it where he was, would spend a whole lot of time on the weekend. Like I'll just spend my whole weekend, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And that was the way that he was able to do it. But with me, especially with going from mechanical to civil and things, it wasn't just a refresher. This was teaching myself a full undergraduate plus a master's and in, civil structural. So I found that having all this new information, like there was a certain saturation point. Like it's like working out, you work out till failure and then you're done. Like even if you want to keep going, like I can't lift the bar anymore. So, and it took over the month, it built up an endurance for me, which is good. So it allowed me, so that shifted as time went,
How many months was that?
It took me,
how many months?
It was, it's interesting too, because from when I said that I was going to do this and to when I ended up taking the exam, it was almost just over. It was right at a year.
Okay.
It was a year of going from zero to everything that I had to do. And I was successful. And ended up passing the test on my first time, which I would not have been able to do without the resources that you have. And not only that, but the way you presented it, the way it's really conducive to someone, whatever level you're at, because I went back through the course and stuff, even after knowing it and becoming mastering all the different topics and subjects, just the way you present it and you give the practice problems and you go through stuff, it helped me to do that, so I'm very grateful.
It's amazing. Well, we appreciate that. So appreciate you saying all these good things about it. And we're pumped you passed it the first round.
Yeah, I'm pumped too. So I'll be honest, we're just free rolling on this and stuff too. So as I was taking the exam, it was a lot, and when I got out of there, I wasn't sure that I passed it.
Mm-hmm.
There are some, you go through, and the good thing is all the problems is not like something jumped out at me, like I have no idea what to do on this. It's just some of the problems were like, there's no way I could do it in this time, especially on the depth section for structural as well too. So going to find stuff, and there were topics that I didn't have, a lot of related, history with doing stuff. And I was like, okay, I know where to go and what I have to do to figure it out. But like, there's no way I could do it in this amount of time. So just, even though when I studied, I never studied and trained myself to pass the exam. Like when I took the exam, like I used everything I could to answer those questions. So, and what in my strategy was, as I was taking the test, if there's something where I felt like I didn't have it or didn't have the time, like I'd flag it, and just leave it and go on to the next one. I didn't even waste time just doing it halfway. So I did that. I went through the section and then I went back to those. So because sometimes what I found too is sometimes I made sure I read through the problem completely, because sometimes, your mind there's more to it than what you realize. And sometimes if you put it in there and you let it kind of like, I'll just set it aside and let it work in the background without me consciously thinking about it. And by the time I come back to it, it's kind of already setting up things a little bit. So that's kind of what my methodology was. And then I'd come back and do my best and like, can you reduce anything? And of course on the exam, it's like, it was written by other engineers like us. And all of the answers, like there weren't a lot of like, just obviously, out of spec answers. And on some of the stuff, it's, it was like, okay, if I did this, and it might be the answer there. If I know like, if I didn't take into account this factor or this design stipulation or required code requirement, they were all there.
So, all there. Yeah.
I did what I could. And there's a lot of stuff I hadn't seen before, but I used all that to, end up being successful. But it's interesting. When I after I was done with the exam, so here's the thing, I'll let you know about my experience. I was done and I wasn't sure that I passed, and I didn't think, and I was like, man, and I gave it my best shot. Of course, you're so worn out and exhausted by the end of the day, and at least, now, because a long time ago you had to wait, months till you got your results. Where now it's, within a week. I took it on. So, and I took it at the end of March. It was literally the last exam I could get in before the pitching.
Wow.
It would just. So it was on the Thursday before, I think the March 28th or 27th, something like that. And I got it in. I got an exam center, just in Asheville where I live, just, close enough to take it. And so I got in the last one. But when I was done with the exam, I was like, I felt kind of bad because I wasn't sure. And I didn't want to, stop and take a break because I felt like, oh man, I finally deserve, like, after all this struggling and all my life that I put into it, I felt like I should be getting back to the books and study, just so I can get ready for the next one. Like, I just wasn't sure. And that's a tough thing to go through as well, too. And what was hard was, and again, trying to see stuff with your open eyes and honest eyes. Like, okay, I just, wasn't sure. And then I had so much support around me, from the best intentions that people have, like, oh no, you're smart, you'll do it, everything's great. And I'm like, these are from non-engineering, of course, family and friends and support. Even some of the engineering people I worked with, like, oh no, you're great. I know you'll pass. And I start feeling bad. I'm like, because I didn't have that expectation on myself, but then it's other people like supporting you. I'm like, to be honest with you, like, I might not, and it's okay. But even with my work, I had people, around me, people knew what I was doing, and the people above me, and my boss and my boss's boss and the director of engineering, I had people all the way up the company knowing that I was doing this. And it's like, I want you to know about it, and it's like, I know you're great, you're going to do it. And, so that's another thing that people understand is just how intense it is to be able to do it, and how you really have to give yourself. And it's okay either way. And sometimes it's hard dealing with stuff if people don't know, because, you might be intelligent, you've done so much, but it's more than that. It's like, you have to give yourself enough to be able to be successful on the exam. And even if you have the information, just being able to do it in that 8 hour, with 80 questions and stuff, it's a lot. Like, and I built up towards the end. Another part of my, my process was I had to build up a stamina of being able to work even when it was uncomfortable. So in the beginning, I said I was able to, 30 minutes a day and 45 minutes and my brain is mush. So at the end, I'm like, and this is what I learned after taking the practice exams, and really giving it a full shot and being able to do it. And I'd recommend, because it's hard fitting it in, but if you can do it, and like I said, I even took a vacation day off of work and took time to be able to give it my full, to do it, so that you really know. Because part of it's not just the information, but it's being able to do it, after the morning half, like, I was blown out, at the end, luckily I had 30 minutes. It was a beautiful day outside. I was talking with some of the other people there. It's funny, is at the exam, it was at the Pearson's testing center. And normally they have all different kinds of people there, but because it was so close, right, to the end of the time when things were switching over, it was full of civil engineer. So you're 60 people. We were in the waiting room, and at first you see everyone sitting, and everyone's like, "These look like engineers." Yeah, we know, we're all kind of engineers, and people were nervous and stuff. And I just started, you civil, and we started talking. And so we had people there from their water resources. There was structural. There was geotech. We had transportation. I was like, if we all got together, like, we think of what we could do with the world, before we take the exam. So, just learning to, and being honest with yourself, and realizing, even if you know the information, right, even if you're good, even if it's secure, like, you have to be able to do it in a time where you're going to be exhausted, like, your mind's going to be full. Like, so a problem that you would have been able to do fresh, you might not be able to do it. And just, so you have to be that honest with yourself. And just, so the last couple months, I was kind of pushing myself where I'd study and, like, I'm done, but, like, okay, go through the problem, being uncomfortable, going through it when your mind's a little fuzzy, so that you're ready for that and can give yourself the best. So this is like, I always say, like, I'm not the best at everything, but I always try to give my best. And so I'm like, this is literally the best that I can do, the honest I can be, and, help me be successful. But know that it's okay for people not to understand. It's okay to feel like you're feeling you're not doing something good enough, but just, like, you just got to keep on going and know that, people like Isaac and civil engineering accounting, people like me, everyone who's gone through it, like, we support you, even if I've never met you before, too. Like, we know, we understand, and we want you to succeed, and you can do it. And the people, even while I was studying and learning the information, I'm like, these are other engineers that like, they don't want you to fail. You know, they're not making it hard because they're diabolical. You know, I think some questions, there are a couple of them stuck in where they might have, some people got in with them. There's no way they expect us to be able to do this, but you know, it's not like that. You know, it's like, we just want you to succeed and to go, and we know it's hard, but just know that there's people there, even if there's no one directly around you, know that there's people there.
Yep. We're here to help you. Yeah. So those are great tips, great advice. I've loved hearing this story and journey that you've set yourself on and that you found success. We're excited about that. You know, we try to put out good resources. It's fun when people take advantage of them, and I'm just pumped that you found us. So
yeah, I like I said, I'm honestly, like, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the Civil Engineering Academy. Like the way you have it set up, you know, it's just, it was all there, you know, and it gave me the foundation that I needed, and I just, you know, took it from there. Because even doing it myself, I think if I had to do it, you know, reading through books and doing information, like, it's just, the way we assimilate information is differently, and having someone there who, I mean, you know it, so you know how to present it, and it's all there in an organized way. And I, you know, would have been able to do it, and I definitely would have been able to do it this quickly and successfully the first time without, you know, and probably if I didn't have it, I don't know if I would have been able to keep on pushing through again, because when you have a full-time career and things are, and a family and all kinds of other stuff that are push and pull you that are important in your life, and you know, sometimes you question, like, is it worth it? Am I doing all this, you know, and going through stuff? And it's so much. And having the resource and knowing that you're so genuine in what you're offering and doing, like, that helped me, you know, successful. So thank you so much for it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I try to make boring subjects, I mean, all information you can find out there, but we try to present it in a way that's a little more, put some life into it, and try to make it a little less boring.
Yeah.
Appreciate all these thoughts. I appreciate you jumping on the podcast, sharing this.
Thank you for having me.
Any other tips you would share for anyone either going from mechanical to this, or
so
any surprises?
Yeah. Find out, you know, really think about what's motivating you to do it. You know, if you're doing it, and this is just from me, you know, it took me 20 years to do it. I was never motivated because I knew, and I didn't start it because I didn't commit to it, because I knew what it would take to do it right. And I'm not someone to do something halfway. I'm like, and just to do it for myself, I had become an expert and a professional in my career, you know, and I didn't need the PE for that, but to do it, like, I had to find that inspiration and to do it, not to pass the test. This is my advice, is do it to become an engineering professional engineer. And once you're at that spot, then you'll be able to answer those questions as they come in front of you, and you'll be able to handle it, and you'll be able to take that into your career and to be able to be the professional and to grow and to be a part of things. So, and, you know, just know it's tough, and know that, you know, the situations around you, there's always something to pull you out of it. And sometimes you'll fall down, and there might be time of this or a week, and, you know, you're not doing it, and it's okay, you know, and just be willing to find the inspiration that it's worth it, and be willing to get back up, whether you fall down once or twice or 50 times, and know that it's there. And if you give yourself and you're open with yourself, like, you'll be able to do it. And there's people here supporting you, even if you never get a chance to meet them, just so you know, like, we're rooting for everyone. So
love it. Joe, that was awesome. Very inspirational. Your whole journey is inspirational. I think a lot of people resonate with that. So appreciate you jumping on and sharing the good news with us. So thanks for sharing all this. Appreciate you doing this with me. We will maybe catch up later and follow up, see where you're at. But thanks for jumping on. And we'll see you maybe in the future.
All right.
See you.